Hey everyone, welcome to the first inaugural episode of the Real Housewives Roundup here on Silent Podcast, where we are anything but silent. My name is Carrie, and you may have seen me on some other podcasts like The Challenge in the Circle, but I am here to talk to you about Beverly Hills and New York's finest housewives, and I am joined by none other than Leandro. Leandro, how are you doing this evening?
I am happy to be here. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling Giovanni, actually.
Good one. So good one.
Yeah, I'm feeling very good. Thanks for having me, Carrie.
Well, having you, we are co-hosts of this. You don't get to just leave and bounce in and out you have an option of abandoning me. So we are your two co-hosts for this. You will see guests cycling through, but for the first one, you are stuck with the two of us. I don't think that's the worst punishment, though. So first and foremost, Leandro, what is your Real Housewives experience and your fandom, however you want to explain that? Like, how'd you get into this whole mess?
Okay, so I first started watching The Real Housewives last year when the pandemic hit, because I have this thing when I'm gonna watch a show, I have to start from the first season, and I don't like to jump in or anything. So I was unemployed. I was like, you know what, that's my chance. So I started watching Atlanta. I was immediately hooked up on it, and then I did Beverly Hills, New York, New Jersey, Miami, and now I'm doing Potomac. So I'm obsessed with the show. It's a very good casual watch, and it's not heavy on you. So yeah, I feel like I'm not getting out of this fandom anytime soon or ever.
Ever. I am doing
about
this
you?
till I die. So I am much newer to this. Here's how this happened. I used to listen to a Ringer podcast that had David Jacoby and Juliet Littman talking about The Challenge and some other reality TV shows. And they always were like, oh my God, Vanderpump Rules is the best. And so fast forward to August, I moved to a new apartment, and my neighbor was like, Vanderpump Rules is the best. So I watched Vanderpump Rules, and from Vanderpump Rules, I became obsessed with Lisa Vanderpump. So I went and watched all the Beverly Hills seasons, and then after, I'm like, I can't just leave now. I need to watch other seasons. So I just recently caught up on New York, and then under the advisement of my Real Housewives guru, Leandro, I have started Potomac. So I don't know as much about the other series. However, I am fully dedicated to only watching all the Real Housewives episodes until I have watched all of them. So I fully admit I'm not an expert on the whole series, but I promise you I am a student of the game.
I'm not experienced on the subject either. I just love the show. I love the seasons I have watched, and it's addictive. You can stop.
I don't even know if I can say I'm a fan of the show as much as I'm entertained incredibly by it. I can't tell you what I like. I don't even know if there is anything I like. However, I can tell you that it captures me. I'm on the subreddit. I am reading. I'm Googling shit about these women constantly. And I have no explanation for why I do like this. But I enjoyed enough that I want to talk about it each week, what's going on, and dedicate a ton of time to watching it.
We'll be here. I'll be here.
Yes, we will be here, and you'll be seeing other people here with us too.
Yes.
So we figure a little way you can get to know us is kind of related to what happened near the end of the Beverly Hills episode and play Two Truths and a Lie. So, Leandro, I'm going to put you on the spot first. What are your two truths and a lie? And then at the end of the episode, to keep people, because I know that they're going to be very involved in our personal lives, want to know what those truths and lies are. So go ahead, Leandro. Tell us what you got.
Okay. Let me scramble up a little bit. Okay. So my first info is that I went to university for journalism. That's my first one. My second is that I have cooked for Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello here in Canada. And my third one, the worst wine that I have ever drank was the Vanderpump wine.
Oh no, I'm tweeting her and telling her. You are done for. Okay, so we will circle back to those. Here's mine. I once met Taylor Swift backstage at a concert. I once met Steph Curry front row at a Red Sox Astros game, and I played professional dodgeball. So those are my three. I'll give you this entire episode to stew and think on it. But let's get into the Real Housewives of New York. So, first and foremost, who's your favorite from this season? Not overall, this season.
I am obsessed with Ebony. I really am. Like, I don't think it's an easy job to be the new housewife and just like get that approval right away. You're always in defense because especially on a strong cast as New York. But I really like what she has been adding to the show. It's hard because I'm in love with the New York cast, like in general. I feel like they work together a lot. I'm still missing Dorinda though. I feel like Dorinda was an important piece on that show. But I'm gonna go with Ebony for now. I'm gonna say that. How about you?
My current favorite is Leah because she's like batshit in the best way. I love when she gets mad at things because I think I would get mad at the same things. And I also think she sees through Ramona's bullshit, which like I don't understand how people defend Ramona as a human. Like I get that she's entertaining on TV, but if she was someone in my everyday life, well, she wouldn't be because I would cut that bitch so fast. But like, I appreciate that Leah calls her on it and isn't afraid to, because I feel like a lot of times people just like back off because they know Ramona is gonna like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, you're so beautiful, or avoid the conflict, or just be like, I'm sorry I made you feel that way.
Yes.
And just like the bullshit that she spews, and Leah's not there for it. And so I really, really like Leah.
There's one word on Ramona's book that doesn't exist actually, is accountability. She never takes accountability for anything. So I appreciate Leah for calling her out on her stuff, but I don't think it's gonna work out very well for Leah.
No, I could see Leah getting like fed up with it because I mean Ramona's been like the one of, I guess, the two backbones of this franchise. But we will quickly figure out that I'm not a big Ramona fan, and it's hard for me to like really even pretend that I enjoy her on my screen. But here we are. So let's get into this week's episode. Last week's episode ended with Sonia in her like drunken mess yelling about JP Morgan versus Wells Fargo and like, how dare you not give money to the family? How do you feel about how Sonia approaches her, and I say family with the air quotes around it, her family dynamic and like the divorce and just like what baggage she brings over to the women when this comes up?
I feel like Sonia is very lonely. I feel like Sonia is still hasn't let go. Whatever happened on her past is still pretty much in the past yet. So every time that she drinks, those things come up. You know, it's always a mess. So she was already like building up, like feeling lonely, and then feeling that Luann like exchange her for her new boyfriend. So she was just looking for something like to storm out, in my opinion. And that was it, you know, without looking like she was reaching, you know, that was it for her. I'm going to storm out because it don't come from my family. When we all know that Sonia is by herself for all this time, right? So it's sad. It's pretty sad.
I do understand she's like, these people take care of my daughter still, but like her daughter is legally an adult, and also JP Morgan has more than enough money to take care of their like it's not like you're supporting some small like mom and pop restaurant business that just had to go through the pandemic. It's JP Morgan. Like calm down. And I think like you said, she kind of just like when she gets drunk, waits for something to flip out on. Ramona tells her to shut up because she's defending a family that doesn't help her. Which
get real. That's what Ramona said.
Yes. And Sonia's like, well, you have fake ass friends, which, to be fair, like, I think Ramona's a fake ass friend. So it's probably like on par with how she is, in those relationships. But I thought what was interesting is like Luann goes out and talks to Ramona after Ramona leaves the room. And she's like, you poked the bear. And kind of like puts this ownership on Ramona in a way. And this is like one of the few instances where I'm like, oh, well, Ramona didn't make Sonia drink too much. Like, actually, Ramona's one of the people telling her to calm down on the drinking. So, like, is she poking the bear? Did you think she was poking the bear?
I don't think poking the bear is the right phrasing for what happened. I feel like, personally, when I'm in a situation like that, when like clearly one friend in the group is like more drunk than the others and just like making a fool of themselves, I just don't engage with it. So maybe what Luann was trying to say is like, just don't engage with it, because, for example, Sonia has been talking about Garf, and Luann would be like, okay, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
So wait for her to sober up and then talk about it. So I feel like that's what she meant. And honestly, like, it's 13 seasons of the show. We know that they're going to engage it. So what are you expecting, Luann? So they have to give us something to show on the TV, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
So Ramona comes back in and apologizes to Sonia for upsetting her. So she didn't really like apologize for what she said, but to be fair, I think this is one of the few instances where Ramona doesn't really need to apologize for what she said. And Ebony is saying like, well, Sonia's married to her story, which I thought was such a great way of phrasing it, is that like Sonia won't let this go. This is her like go-to, I'm upset because, when really, like you've said, there's a whole host of other things that Sonia is actually upset about, but this is the easy thing to fall back on.
Absolutely. So like I said, like Sonia, she is just lonely. Like I saw a thing the other day on Twitter, and that was pretty much true. It's very random, it's very mystical, but like how like the dog like is always like with Sonia on these moments, like Marley, and dogs can sense, right? Like when people are lonely, when they're needy and stuff like that. And I do feel like Sonia is a fun character, of course, we love her, but she is pretty lovely, and she has been through a lot. If you have watched all the seasons, she have a lot of like unsuccessful business story. She always think that she's gonna have the moment going on, and it just never does, right? So she relies on being a media personality. So I feel like that was just her way of storming out and like to hold on to she's something. She's a part of the PJ Morgan family, So I feel like that's where she's going through. And therapy. That's all I can say, Sonia. Therapy. You need to figure that out.
And like being on a reality TV show is not therapy. Just in case anyone who is thinking about going on reality TV in the place of therapy is listening to this, like that's not it. It's not.
Probably the opposite of it.
Yeah. So we go to the next morning. Did you see? Was Luann twirling a baton? Did you? I don't know if you caught that. And I watched like, was she just like randomly standing there twirling a baton? We've never seen Luann twirl a baton before in like 12 years of this.
I forgot how to do that. That's what you're saying. Like I didn't even know you could do that. But
I didn't know you knew it to forget it. I was confused. So we get Ebony talking to her mom, and we get Leah talking to her sister. Both of them are talking about their grandmothers who are sick and unfortunately slowly passing away. So we get kind of that like emotional side of both. And Leah and her sister bond over how their mom is handling the situation. Now, we saw some of Leah's mom last season. Are you surprised that Leah and her sister are both like, she's trying to control everything, and it's not in a good way? Was that surprising to you at all?
It was not a surprise because Leah's plot on her first season last year was pretty much like not the plot with the girls, but like her personal plot. It was very, very much about her relationship with her mom, right?
Mhm.
How her mom did improve Leah's lifestyle and how a bunch of other things. So it was not surprising, in my opinion. I really think I saw that coming. I think it makes sense.
Yeah. What was surprising to me is when Ebony was talking to her mom, and her mom was more or less like trying to manipulate her into Ebony being the one to decide, like, do we pull the feeding tube or not? Like, she didn't want to do it. I mean, given we don't know a whole ton about Ebony and her family yet, but I was kind of surprised that her mom, like, on TV is like, by the way, how about you do this?
Yeah, like you have to be brave, like to expose your family members like that on television. I don't know, like how much they can control what they goes on air, how much because it was just Ebony on herself in the room. So
Mhm.
I don't know, like if she has a control of like, okay, I'm gonna call my mom right now and make sure that this is being recorded. But it was a little freaky even though I understand, like Ebony explained that her mom didn't want her to have ownership on pulling the plugs on the grandmother, but it's still like I don't think that was a moment that we needed to see
I mean, unless it has like some relevance coming up, but
coming up.
I
Yes.
did also feel that way. A small short story is that my parents sat me down on Thanksgiving a few years ago and were like, we redid the will. Your brother is the executor because he's around and can take care of the paperwork. The only thing you're responsible for is if we both get like into an accident or something at the same time, you're the one that has to decide to pull the plug because your brother is too much of a pussy to do so himself. And my brother is just sitting right next to me and he was like, yeah, I am. I'm like, wow, it's an honor and a privilege to be bestowed this responsibility of potentially just like allowing my parents to die. Thank you on this holiday for that. I do genuinely appreciate, like, Jesus Christ.
So
Anyway,
I mean, like they showing that on TV. Maybe there's a lot of people in the situation like that. Like, oh, okay, I'm seeing myself on television now, so
me
maybe
and
that was
Ebony
good.
have something in common.
That's awesome.
Then we get Sonia and Ramona kind of like rehashing last night. And by last night, I mean like the previous night because it wasn't actually last night on a calendar, but whatever. And so Sonia is still like trying to stick to like, why would you send money away from the family? And Ramona just straight up says it like, I think think you're afraid of being alone. And this is where we get a bit more of like a vulnerable and honest Sonia, which I don't know if we've seen that yet this season of or at least in front of the other women. I think that she said it like in confessionals, but she's like said, I'm trying to keep this strong. I'm happy. I'm good. When really there's a lot inside that it's just like, it's not going okay. And Sonia says like, yeah, I am afraid of being alone. And I think I am having one drink too many to help deal with the pain. So my big gripe with this situation is Ramona's the voice of reason that drives me nuts.
I do feel like I'm not trying to defend Ramona or anything, but I do feel like there's more to their friendship that we don't get to see on cameras.
Yeah.
Because it does seem like they have like a very strong bond, like a personal bond. Like they always sleep in the same bed when they travel, they're always in the same room. And that is not a thing that happens a lot with the other Housewives franchise, especially in New York when it comes to Ramona to share her space with other people, right? So I do feel like there's more to that relationship that we don't get to see. And I'm happy that Ramona is there for Sonia, like I wish I could be there for Sonia because she just feels so lonely and I just want to hug her. But I'm glad that Ramona is there for her.
We do have a guest on our podcast today. It's my dog who won't shut up. He wants to play, and I've been on this computer all day. So sorry in advance if you think that a dog barking is annoying. But if you saw his face, you'd think he's cute. So
And also, I would just like to let your dog know that the Vanderpump Dogs is going to premiere this summer on Peacock TV. So
ooh.
maybe he can be part of that podcast. This one is not for him. So
You're only gonna be a reoccurring guest. You do not get to be a co-host. My dog goes nuts when there's dogs on TV. It's actually kind of funny.
But this is true. There's actually like a new reality TV show coming up, Vanderpump Dogs.
I'm in. Say less. You just combined two of my favorite things, Lisa Vanderpump and dogs. So Isaiah, I call dibs on covering that one as well. So all right, our next thing that we see is Ramona's day to plan everything, and she goes with breakfast at Tiffany's. And once we like find this out, we then get Ramona telling Luann about her conversation with Sonia. And here is where we get primetime Leah. Leah comes in and Ramona's like, can you leave for 5 minutes? We're trying to have a private conversation. And Leah is just like, let's fucking go then. How she goes up to I forgot her name. Is her name Michelle? The woman who's like helping with the house?
I think it's Michelle, but like
I didn't write it down.
We don't want to get her name wrong because she has been getting her name wrong many times already.
Do not call her by the wrong name and do not call her the help. So anyway, she like Leah goes up to, and I think her name is Michelle, be like, how do you work for Ramona? She's a dumb fucking bitch. Like, these are things I would say. I'm with you, Leah. And Ebony comes in to talk to Ramona and Luann, and like Ramona's nice to her, which then sets Leah off even more, being like, what the fuck? I came in and you were rude to me. Ebony comes in and you're nice. Ramona's like, we were having a private conversation. It did seem though that like the conversation was done by the time Ebony got in there.
Yes.
However, I'm still Team Leah in this regardless.
Are you? Because I don't know if I am. Like, I think I would react the same way as Leah. I'm not going to lie. Because from the history between the two of them, and I would think that Ramona was just the one to Leah to be a part of the conversation. But at that moment, I really felt like Ramona was having a conversation with Luann, and she just wanted like some privacy. Leah is not as close as Sonia as Luann and Ramona are, right? Like, there's a history there. So I don't think there was a reason to storm out, but I can see how it would seem for Leah coming up. And so, yes, I'm here for it. As audience, I'm here for it. Please do that, Leah. Do more often, please.
I think part of it, and like I can definitely empathize because I actually am like currently finding myself in a similar situation that like it's when it all builds up that like this isolated little thing would be fine if it was this isolated little thing. But when you feel there's like 5, 10, 15 isolated little things, that's no longer isolated little things. Those are a pattern. And so I think just with like Leah is clearly on edge about her grandmother. She like just got off the phone talking about her and like has said, I'm not in the greatest headspace. My dog is going nuts. Like I understand like why it happened. I do think that like you're right. Is this the thing to go off about? But it's also the way Ramona like talks to her. It was a tone. There was a tone. Like there was a way that if it was said, oh, someone just told my dog to shut up. We're about to go fight. That if the tone was different, or maybe if it was like Luann that said it, it doesn't elicit this type of response. But I do understand when it's like those little things, and she's had those little things build up with Ramona.
Ramona, she absolutely looked down on Leah. She doesn't think Leah is classy. I feel like that's kind of what she thinks she is, because she doesn't think she's mature enough to hang out with the girls. Like I think it was on that episode that we saw, or was the previous episode, I don't remember now, that we saw Ramona like making fun of Leah's outfit. Like, where are you going? What is this? Leopard prints and this and this and this. It's just Ramona trying to look down on Leah, but like wanting to Leah to look like the other girls as well, which she's not. She's like a fashion owner, brand, and just she has a more urban lifestyle, you know, like on Leah's word, like she elevated that shit like Caesar, right? And it was good because Leah brought this young side to Ronnie that maybe Bravo was missing in audience, right? So I think it's refreshing to see Leah there. So I do think there's something in there that Leah would have reason to go off Ramona, because it has been like punch after punch after punch after punch. So maybe it was not on that moment specifically, but the combination, I agree with you on that one, Carrie.
And I think it's also because of how hypocritical Ramona is when in her interactions with Leah. Just how like, oh my God, stop talking about sex, when it's like, you do this all the time. They all do it. But Sonia makes like the same type of comments as Leah at like on the same, at the same level, the same amount, and it's Leah that gets it. Like Leah is definitely treated differently by Ramona 100%. So again, maybe this wasn't the right thing to flip out over, but I also understand why she did it, and like this was just the one that broke the camel's back type of thing.
I agree. I have a problem with Leah this season, though, but I'm gonna get to it later. Like,
Ooh, the suspense.
yeah.
So I thought something that was rich was like Ramona calling Leah a psycho. It's like, have you seen any of these seasons, Ramona? Like, have you watched you?
Have you watched you walking on that runaway with the eyes like this? Girl.
Classic. So after that, we get Garth showing up to facilitate a workout, and Sonia is straight up hating. Like, there is no disguising her lack of just her hatred, basically, for the fact that Garth is showing up. And they split into two groups, the group that's going to do the workout and the group that's not going to do the workout. So getting their makeup done instead is Ebony and Leah, and then Sonia, Luann, Ramona get their or go and do their workout. So
that part had a big comedy factor on me. I was laughing so much as while Sonia was being petty towards Garth. Like she just looked for reasons to hate him, and she was like, "Oh, like he's going to do this circuit stuff. Like I hate circuit stuff. Like for the workout. Like really, Sonia, like you really hate doing circuit working out. Like it was funny. I think it was funny."
Yeah, she found anything that she make a comment on, and she did. And then the other thing that came out of that, to me, at least in the workout part, was when Ramona was taking the medicine ball and slamming it like it was Leah's face, but then like proceeds to call Leah immature. Okay, and and then in the I almost said make-out room, the make-up room, that Leah is like, I'm taking a vow of silence.
Nobody wants that, Leah. Please speak up. Who needs you speaking up?
So we get our vow of silence, and we also get back to the workout group, and Luann was like, "Oh, you think he's good at leading a workout? Wait till he tastes his curry." So anything that you took from that besides what we've highlighted? Oh my God. I'm going to mute while you talk. Go on.
Not really. Like Luann has like a interesting story like with men, right? She started on the show as the countess, right? With this married, super successful life, and then everything just fall apart, right? So I just love seeing Luann being happy, if it's genuine or not, because Luann is the best at hiding her emotions and pretending everything is all right. But it was nice to see. He seemed like a nice guy. I don't know if they're still together. I don't think so, because I follow Luann on social media. I don't see a lot of Guard over there.
Okay.
But it was just, I didn't take a lot of that, but Luann being happy.
I have not reached the level of following any of the housewives on Instagram. I've looked them up on Instagram, but I have not followed. I have not met that level. I might have to now that we're podcasting about it, but I haven't gotten there yet.
There's a huge drama happening on Instagram right now because of this episode. Yes, I will fill it up when we get there.
Okay, sick. I can't wait.
Not me doing all these suspense things. I will do that, like what I'm trying to do, like hold the audience, like what.
They have some cliffhangers in the show. We can do it on the podcast. You have to wait around until we talk about it, and you're going to run on our schedule.
Yes.
So we get back from the commercial break, and Ramona tries to pronounce laryngitis. I can't even remember how she tried to pronounce it, but it was incredibly wrong. How does a woman English is her first language, so there goes like that. We don't have that. How does a woman make so much money and have all this like fame and notoriety, but cannot pronounce like a decent amount of words? I wonder this. Like, I'm out here struggling on these teacher streets, and Ramona Singer is somehow like swimming in money at night, furnishing her like I almost said her Hilton's house, her Hampton's house, her New York City apartment, like once every 45 days, and the woman can barely speak.
Well, I personally think that the part of her that knows how to speak English left with the blood plasma. Maybe that's what happened when she donated the blood plasma. That part went away also. So I don't know. Maybe that's it.
Oh my god, I'm dead. That was so good. I think my dog is gonna have to come inside. So I'm gonna ask you to, if you could for a little bit, narrate your thoughts on the whole Sonia and Luann conversation, because all of a sudden it comes all the way back to Tom, that Sonia says, like, you always steal my man, my bald guy, you like bald men, Tom was my man. We're back at this Tom bullshit. What do you think of that while I lasso my dog off of the balcony? So you're talking to the ethernet right now.
Okay, so they are at the car, they're on the way, and they just start talking about like refreshing things. And this is a current theme on Real Housewives of New York, because it's even like when Ramona got single, they always slept with pretty much the same guys. I guess it's just a very, small inner circle. So Sonia, as we know, she has a hard time on letting things go, right? So I feel like it's just these girls don't talk about things. It may look like they do, but they don't talk about things. They don't get over it. So here we go again, talking about the silliest thing about like letting go. And then Gwen was being hurtful to Sonia and just saying, oh, like because you don't present as a lady, that's why no man wants to sleep with you. And that's a little harsh, because Sonia, she just wants to be loved. That's the moment that like the cute song and like slow song start like playing in the background. But seriously, I do feel that Sonia is very lonely and she wants someone to love her and look at her, look at the true Sonia. So for Luann, like as a great friend, to say that in a moment of anger, it was a little hurtful in my opinion. And I'm so glad that Ebony stood up for that. Was Ebony's star moment so far. That's when she was like, I'm not longer just like watching this group, I'm part of these conversations. And Luann, you crossed the line over there while talking about Sonia. So, yeah.
I think something that we've seen throughout this whole series is that if Luann is feeling hurt or slighted, her hurt or slighted is always more important at a bigger scale than whatever else is going on. And like when there was a time when her and Bethany got into it, and I can't remember who she was talking to outside, but like she's like, my dad's about to die. I don't care that you were called a bitch. Like, shut up. Like, but Luann just like ignored all of it and kept going on, right?
Yeah.
Even in this, well, she's like, oh, well, you ghosted us for 10 months. It's like, Luann, you have to realize that even if you're hurt by this little thing, like Sonia's fucking feeling it right now. Like, she is not in a great place. Be the bigger person and just like swallow your emotions for a second to be there for someone who's supposedly your friend. And that's one of the things I think, like, as I've read on Reddit, as like going through watching the series, because I've had my experiences of like, how do people defend Ramona? How do people defend Luann, even Sonia sometimes, where it's like, this is almost one of the reasons that people love her and makes good TV, because it doesn't matter like who else is feeling down or hurt around her. It's always the Luann show.
Yes.
And I loved, like you said, that Ebony was like, girl, she's not doing well right now. Like, just suck it up and be better. Like, be better. So I love that Ebony was there to be the voice of reason for it.
Yes, that was a very good moment, I think, because we have seen this happen like so often on the show where people like, I don't want to use the word gang up on like, but like just like really, it's so easy to kick someone that is already down, right? So we see that a lot, and especially with Sonia. Everybody just want to say like, oh, that's why you are a failure, Sonia, because I don't know, you don't make good connections in a working level, in a professional level. You don't make good connections with men. That's why you don't make healthy choices. So it's just so easy to use this argument to shut Sonia down, because it could be true, but like look a little deeper than that. So when used that to attack like Sonia's like character, I was very happy that finally someone and Ebony was just like, nope, you don't do that. We're
Mhm.
all women, like we need to, keep it like in a different realm when it comes to the fight. And so yeah, very
The
happy
ne-
about it.
the next thing that happens is one of my least favorite reoccurring highlights we get on this show, which is Ramona eating an oyster. The way she like licks her lips and the it's like I don't even know how to describe the sexual act it reminds me of, but it's nothing nice. It's nothing I would pay for on OnlyFans. It's no porn I'm searching for. It makes me feel gross in like my shoulders are tensing up just thinking about the highlight of it. And I'm not even watching it right now. Ugh. Anyway,
She put us on a show. Let's
it
all say that.
shut up. Did you even know that like oysters were actually meant for like poor people? But then there was a whole like gentrification of seafood essentially. Like whatever, you wouldn't know that. You're dumb. Anyway, but I like that highlight just it ugh, if you want me to like stop of whatever I'm thinking or doing and you want to make me feel uncomfortable, just be like, think of Ramona eating an
I'm
oyster.
gonna actually take
Yeah,
notes
yeah,
of
write that
that.
down. When I make you mad, it'll happen. You'll be like, hey, Carrie, I'm going to ruin your day. But Ramona decides to bring the women to a place where they get to shuck their own oysters. Ramona clearly had no idea what she was in for because when they showed her the actual oysters before they were shucked, she said it looked like a gross newborn baby, which, I mean, I've never personally been in the delivery room for a newborn baby. I've never in my 32 years of life heard that a newborn baby looks like an unshucked oyster.
Never.
But there's a first time for anything or everything.
That's
Uh,
Ramona.
it's Ramona speaking as well. So they show them how to shuck the oysters, and I love that Luann's just like popping through them, like being able to like give oysters to the whole table. And Ramona's like, I can't do this. This is impossible. Let's move to the other table. I'm over it. She like has her own little kid temper tantrum about it.
Yeah, it's just like the level of privilege. Like, do you think oysters comes like open like that? Like, with all the fixings and whatever. Like, what do you think about it? It's you have to open it. Like, just be grown up about it. What the fuck?
Also, once lobsters reach their full growth, they climb into a pot of boiling water and cook themselves. Like all these things is seafood, right? No, you're absolutely correct. Like, what do you mean?
You
It
never
doesn't.
watched The Little Mermaid? That's what they do over there.
So once we move to this other table, we get Leah speaking again. God bless, because we missed her voice, her outbursts, you could say. And she says like she's struggling with her grandma, and she's also worried about Heather showing up tonight because Heather has talked shit about a lot of them.
Yes.
So what do you think about Leah being the one to be like, Heather's
Okay.
coming? Because Leah and Heather don't really have a previous relationship.
They don't. So that's what I want to talk about. That I mentioned, like I want to talk about Leah. That I'm a little like I feel like Leah had such a successful first season, and that's kind of new for like a new housewife, especially in this group. And I feel like she's feeling the pressure to like keep like on the top, like housewives. I elevated that shit kind of thing. So I don't know if it was a Leah decision or if it was Leah's producer decision to just, like bring a story, something like that. And that's when this Heather story comes up because it didn't feel like natural to me. It felt like, okay, like Heather's talking this shit, let's bring Heather to the show. And like, let's be honest, all these women talk shit about each other on the press. They have been doing that for so long now. So why are we making this a storyline on this show now? That's why I was like, it's a little weird.
Yeah.
But I appreciate they trying to keep something happening because it's hard. Like with Dorinda leaving the show, right? Tinsley left. Like the COVID happened, and there's not a lot for them to do. So I felt like they were trying to pick up a storyline and put on the show. but I don't know if I like this part that Leia gave herself. That's
Mhm.
like, I'm gonna call everybody out. I'm the one who calling all the bullshit out. Just
Mhm.
like, let's see. Like tread, quietly on this waters.
I understand your point, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, Leah was like, "What's she gonna say about me?" And also she came to Luann's defense, and I do think that like Leah has a somewhat deeper connection with Luann than maybe she does with some of the other, especially like older
Yes,
housewives. And I don't say older in a derogatory way. That
been longer
with
in the show, right? That's
yeah,
what you said. Yeah.
yeah, like older, like Ramona and then like they're all 10 plus years older than her. So it's I think that she does have like Luann was always good with her. Ramona and her have her shit. I think at the beginning Sonia wasn't good with Leah and they've kind of like grown appreciation, but Luann's always been good with Leah. So with Heather saying like Luann does hard drugs and kind of using
Yes.
that. Like, if she is genuinely doing it to be like, why are we welcoming someone who will get put on, like, will go on a podcast and broadcast it to anyone who will listen? I respect that if it is genuine, but I also get your point of like, is this produced a little? Are we trying to create some drama? I
Yeah.
read that like Heather was supposed to be a full-time housewife this
Yeah.
season. And then after some of this bullshit that went down, she was like, this is not worth my time or effort. Peace out.
Yes. Yes.
So,
That's. I felt like they tried to bring Heather because like losing Dorinda was such a big thing. So maybe Heather could like, bring. I'm not a big fan of Heather, to be honest. Like
mhm,
as a show, not that I dislike her, I just don't think she added that much to the show, like history, like the great moments that I think of. I don't think Heather is there, in my opinion. Maybe when Aviva threw her leg,
oh
Heather
my
was in the
God.
background, but like I don't remember like anything that like Heather like really brought to the table
Mhm,
as the other girls. So I understand like. But Heather's very liked by the audience, so I
mhm.
understand production trying to bring her back. So maybe there was a little like manufactured like drama going on there, like with Leah and Heather to be like the big storyline of the season, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like how I feel about that. Like we only saw a little bit of it, right? Because they seem fine on the end of the episode, right? They
Mhm.
seem like very chill. So
Yeah.
more is about to happen, but still, it didn't feel super genuine. I feel like Leah put herself in a position that she didn't have to.
Mhm. I just don't know if anyone else puts themselves in that position to defend the group. So it's like I kind of see both ways and
Yes.
completely understand your point. I just wonder like how genuine it was versus how produced it was.
Yes.
Something
Yes.
that did come up though is Ramona being like, "Oh, Heather, like, yeah, I'm a little nervous about how people are gonna like receive Heather coming back into the group, but she's a good mother." And Ebony's like, "Who cares? That doesn't make
Yes.
you a good person." Which I again, like, as of right now, Ebony is the like north of the moral compass of this show, and I hope she stays this way because some of these women need to be called out, and I don't think that like Luann's words have as much effect on Sonia and Ramona or like any of those three in general. Like we've heard they've yelled at each other, they've forgiven, whatever. Like having that new voice of reason coming in, I think is like a very fresh look for this group.
Yes. I'm gonna just like open up a little bit like to the other franchises, like with Beverly Hills and Garcelle and Cristo. And now apparently I don't watch Dallas, but I heard about some stuff that happened with Tiffany, which is a Asian housewife. I feel like bringing this kind of diversity to the show, it's so important
Mm-hmm.
because like simple things like she's a good mother, or like the stuff that we see happening in Beverly Hills with both Garcelle and Cristo. Like it never happened before. Like these women just come to a place of like white privilege.
Mm-hmm.
They're so used to get away with some kind of comment, some kind of digs to each other. They really needed that checked, and maybe the audience need to see they getting checked as well. So I appreciate so far, like I said, Ebony is bringing so much to the table because she is fun. She's just not like someone to be the moral compass.
Mm-hmm.
No, she has very important like comments that are very relevant about like women and like people of color, Black individuals. So it's good to have like it's refreshing in certain ways. So I really appreciate Ebony being on the show.
In the limited amount that I've seen of like the whole franchise, it does feel at least it was built on the backbone of white privilege without saying this is white privilege, because when there was no castmates who weren't white, so it wasn't highlighted in that way. And then now that we're seeing more diversity through the casts, it's more about, okay, these people are privileged due to their money, but these women now are finding out from the people who are not white on these casts of like, okay, you can't do this, you can't say this is why. And having that voice there, like you said, representing diversity, representing a different perspective than they've seen on the show is incredibly refreshing. And I think we'll talk more about that when we get towards the end of the Beverly Hills episode. But I 100% agree that like she's not just refreshing because she's a moral compass. She's refreshing because she's bringing a whole new dynamic and perspective that so many of these women don't know or understand because they only socialize with rich white women.
Yeah, they came from money, right? Like most of them. And I don't think like it's the same, like Ebony, like she says, like I came for nothing, like she says stuff like that. And she's very rich. She probably has lots of money now, but her ways to get this money was different. So from these people who just like were born like in, like golden cribs and just
or married into it
and then just like think that everybody's the same, even on that like inner circle, like like now the new money is coming with different stories. So it's interesting to see that. Like it's crazy when you think the Housewives of New York have been 13 seasons and this is the first Black housewife. That's insane. It's like, oh, the Black housewives, they're all in Atlanta, they're all in Potomac. It's nice to see like they belonging to the white dominated franchise,
especially in New York City, which is like has a nickname of the melting pot of America, and we're only seeing these white women. So like the fact that it's taken this long, like thanks for catching up, bravo. However, like we would have loved this a few seasons ago.
Absolutely.
So after that commercial, we then head into the evening where they are having their breakfast at Tiffany's themed dinner. And we first see Ramona dressed up as Audrey Hepburn, which I was not expecting. And so it made me laugh out loud, like hard. I just wasn't ready for it.
Yeah, I'm just like, girl.
I didn't realize that all of them were going to be dressing. Like, I didn't know this was like, I knew the theme. I didn't know there was the requirement of dressing as Audrey Hepburn, though.
I think was like, she said it was like a breakfast at Tiffany's inspired dinner. And yeah, I guess they all showed up with the same outfit.
There's only one character in Breakfast at Tiffany's, I guess, and it was Audrey Hepburn. So Heather shows up and she's immediately asking Sonia to help her with her hair. And Sonia is kind of like, the fuck? Like, all you've done is talk shit about me, and you're going to come in here and be like, oh my God, you're the queen of updos, help me. Which, to be fair, Sonia, I'm on your side. Like, that is fake as fuck.
It is. I don't know if the production told them to, like, hold this part of the conversation for dinner, because...
Yeah, they must have.
Because, like, I wouldn't be... I'll be like, go fuck yourself. Do your own hair, Like, don't talk shit about me, So I think production was like...
Right. I agree with you. They must have been like, there's going to be a time and place, and that time at dinner, the place is in the dining room, and we can hold off. But for now, and Heather says it, she's like, it feels a little cold in here. So I'm sure she's not dumb. She has
done the show for years.
Yeah. So Sonia makes a comment. She's like, I don't want to be drunk around Heather. I don't know what she'll say about me. For Sonia on a girls' trip to be like, I'm choosing sobriety. That was astounding to me.
That was just like, okay, Sonia, we know you're gonna drink later. Like,
Yeah.
fine.
Well, she usually says like, I reserve my drinking for trips like this because I know who's around and like it's just the girls or whatever. But she's like, nah, not tonight, dog. Like we got Heather coming in hot. Who knows like what wire she's wearing for the next podcast she's gonna be on.
Mm-hmm.
So, however, Leah was like, I'm not gonna do this fake shit, but Ebony and Heather start talking, and Ebony's like, I'm kind of okay with Heather. She's actually asking me questions about me, and no one else does this. And we've heard this throughout the series of like, none of them try to get to actually know each other. Like, they really only know each other through their experiences with each other and not like what's genuinely like their background, their backstory, how they made it to this place. And so I thought it was interesting that Ebony was like, huh, someone's doing this.
Yeah, someone's like actually want to know about me, and not use me as a platform to highlight themselves, So that was nice that Ebony caught on that.
And then we get Luann like starting the warfare. This was kind of like the first hand grenade. Or she would like pull the little tab thing out of the hand grenade and she's holding it right now. She's like, shit's about to go down here. So she's like, Leah, you used to have a podcast. Do you still do this? So not to Heather, but the word podcast is coming up and it's going to be coming soon. And so, while this is happening, though, like Ramona's in the kitchen being like, pour shots, but not for these three because they're not drinking. Actually, so I guess I'll just have to like do these 3 shots with this really expensive alcohol. I was like kind of confused why
this show is such a mess sometimes. I'm just like watching like, what is even happening? Like, what the hell was that, Ramona?
Like, why is this a part of it unless Ramona's going to get blackout and this is showing why she's getting blackout? To be fair, Ramona, I think, because we hear a lot of like, dude, you go out drinking all the time. You're drunk all the time. She does a good job of keeping it together for cameras and like not drinking when they're filming. And I think afterwards she just gets like fucking plastered.
I can see that happening for sure. Like if you get like the early seasons, right? Ramona was more like the fun girl. It's turtle time, right? It was her Pinot Grigio time. I feel like she has to learn like that she needs to behave a little bit better in front of cameras. Maybe like that Sonia's character, like I don't know. So
early on it was Ramona that it was like pretty regularly, especially on reunions, being like, you have a drinking problem. And it's like, at least in what we see on tape is not Ramona anymore. So she's at least maybe learned one thing from her experiences. One of the things she didn't learn is wearing a mask during a pandemic. And anyway, kind of a sidebar, but like, I saw this on Reddit and now it doesn't escape my mind, is if Donald Trump.
Oh my God, please don't.
No. Okay, so Donald Trump's like, his cadence in how he speaks and Ramona's cadence in how she speaks. If you were to like either make Ramona have Donald Trump's voice or Donald Trump have Ramona's voice, it's the exact same. It's crazy, like the way they talk. And so every time she talks, it's like me battling. Maybe that's like a one of the subconscious reasons I'm not a big fan of her, because I just think it's like Donald Trump in a dress talking to me. But the way they speak is so similar. It's crazy. Have you ever noticed this?
I haven't, and I hate you now for that. Thank you, Carrie.
don't bring up Ramona eating an oyster in return, okay? Like,
no, but seriously, like I can see that because she has a very unique way of talking that is so annoying. Like the faces, the gestures, like it's just. It's like that entitlement like that she has, and they have that in common. So
it's also the way they say words. I'm telling you, like, this is punishment. So if you like really one day just want to hate yourself, maybe go watch like 3 to 5 minutes of Donald Trump speaking and then put on an episode of Real Housewives New York. And I'm telling you, you're going to be like, okay, I might have noticed it before, but it's the exact same. And so maybe it's like, because I mean, obviously Donald Trump has, I don't know if he's actually from New York, but has spent a lot of time there, whatever, that like, I don't know, because he went to the same school as one of my friends. My friend tweeted, he's like, Donald Trump got kicked out of my elementary school when he went here. So I know he's from New York. See that, like, maybe that's like a certain way, a certain subgroup of people talk from there. But I'm telling you, it's incredibly similar and I hate it.
I hate it too now.
All right, so let me find, having the handwritten notes is hard because I can't like scroll to where I was. So these are Carrie Dahlia problems. So they're talking about podcasts, and Leah is like, well, why is Heather bringing this up if she knows that she's talked shit about everyone, or bringing up her own podcast when she knows she's talked shit about everyone in this room on that podcast, which I think she has a valid point. Like, again,
Yeah.
Heather's not dumb. She has to be able to connect these dots.
It's just so weird to me. All this situation is just so weird to me because I don't listen to Heather's podcast.
Me neither.
I don't. I probably would never listen to Heather's podcast, so I don't know like what she's saying. Like if it's true about like the sensational headlines and stuff like that. But yeah, like why would you bring it up if it's true? So like you were chill about that, so like you were comfortable that your podcast doesn't have anything like against these ladies, or what is going on here?
She said she brings on people that she would find interesting to talk to, and then basically like this is where shit all hits the fan. So Leah's like, Heather, you have your podcast too. And Leah asks, like, well, Heather, didn't you say that Luann does hard drugs in your podcast? In St. Bart's specifically. And Heather was like, well, I didn't specify Luann. And then Leah was like, oh, really? Let me read you the quote.
Receipts.
Like, you can't lie in 2021 using about something like this. Like, it's on the internet. You can't do that. And Leah's like, well, if someone does hard drugs in front of me, I'm not saying it to anyone. And Heather's like, me either. And Leah's like, you just did. So again, like you said, I don't know how produced this was. Yes. But I do, again, like, what I do appreciate is Leah brought it up behind Heather's back before she got there. And then Leah followed through and brought it up to Heather's face. Yes. And so I don't think that's produced. I think that's Leah.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I can see that being Leah. The thing that, like, it makes me go crazy if it was produced is, like, Heather was, like, ambushed. Like, how can she not be prepared for that? Like, you have been talking about these people on their podcast. And, like, Heather is kind of like a recurrent person on the show. Even after she left, she was, like, on parties and she would be showing up. So, like, she's on that inner circle, like in seasons that she was not part of the cast officially. I don't think Heather was, like, a friend of the show, but I think she was a recurring guest on the events and stuff. So, was Heather ambushed? Like, she didn't see that coming? It's just so weird, Like, why are they inviting her to be a main cast member right now after she said this podcast? Saying, like, come on, Heather, you should know better.
I do think, though, that, like, throughout this whole series, they've all said fucked up shit about each other. And then, like, the next season, it's kind of like, okay, the first few episodes, we're still mad about this. But then, like, they make up and it's all better. And so I don't know if we see the makeup and it's all better part of this actually happening, or if it becomes, I mean, we kind of know that it becomes too much and Heather's like, fuck this, I'm done. So, Heather's got to make her money. If this is a way that she thinks she can make her money, then sure. But I do think that she at least does have the experience of, like, well, in past seasons when we've said mean things about each other on blogs, on tweets or whatever, like, it takes a few episodes, but we get over it. So they'll get over what I said. And I think it'll be interesting to see, like, how or why they don't get over what she said.
Yes. I'm very, like, excited to see the unfolding of this thing, because now I'm going to back to the second thing that I said that I was going to talk by the end of the episode. It's just this drama is being carried over Twitter, like over Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So they mentioned on the episode that the guest on that episode was Carol, that she used to be a cast member, right?
Right.
Carol. And Luann was like, "Oh, that bitch," and Heather posts a screenshot after the episode. Carol blocked Leah on Instagram without Leah, like Leah never interacted with her. I didn't see Leah specifically talking about Carol on the show. So with that, so Leah posted that thing on her stories, like, what the fuck is that? I never even talking about this girl. Why did she block me for? And then on Carol's story, she posted a picture of Heather and with the caption something like that, like, oh, Heather, I guess we need to do another podcast together sometime soon.
Mm-hmm.
So there is like drama going on outside of the show with that. So, and I think Heather's gonna take the publicity of it. She's gonna, do more and more and more and more, because she also made a post about like, I'm back, sort of, on her Instagram page. So I don't know.
So something that I always thought that Carol was like the reasonable one, level-headed, and then
Hillary Clinton lost. And then she went crazy after that. Like, seriously.
I mean, you're not really wrong. But something I noticed, because I was like distraught. I found out before I watched the season where her and Bethany have their fallout, because I was like, oh, I love that pairing. I think it's so good for Bethany to have someone like Carol in her life. And I'm like an unapologetic Bethany Frankel fan that afterwards it was Carol kind of like, I don't know if she learned things on the show about being a shady bitch, but like she was a shady bitch after she was done with the show, like still using it to like make comments about people or whatever. And like I would kind of assume that Carol, who initially was like doing the show as kind of like my guilty pleasure, still kind of uses the platform to be relevant. I didn't expect that out of her. Like she still gets involved in the drama, and I thought she was kind of like too above that once she was done. Like I can understand in the show, because like that's how you stay relevant. That's how you're involved in, like, you get your screen time, all that type of thing. Like I understand it. I just was very surprised in doing my own sort of like research on some things that like, oh, she didn't stop when she left the show. If anything, she like amped it up and is still kind of like talking her shit.
Yes. So I feel like this is very common, like not only the Housewives franchise, but like in reality TV shows in general. Like people go there, they make fame out of it, and then they go back on media to talk trash about it to get more platform.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes they even come back to the show, after they talk shit about it. So it's surprising because Carol, she always put herself like in this place that she was above the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, oh, I'm this writer, I'm educated, I have, all these degrees, and I have books, and I have the story with my husband, her latest husband. So for her to still like, like wanting like fame from the show, it's a little weird. Like it doesn't make sense to the character that she's sold on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe she wants to come back. Maybe, I don't know.
I just don't know if there's really like a place for her to come back now that like Bethany's not there, because I don't see like who she fits in with. Because like her and Tinsley got close too, and Tinsley's gone. So like I enjoyed Carol's time. I hope she doesn't come back. And I think that was a big reason why, like what you just said of like these people talking shit and then trying to come back. That like Bethany and all of her fame and fortune never put herself above the show. Never. No. But Heather did. And I think like what I read was the other women were like, all she did was talk shit about all of us, and now she wants to come back and be part of it. Like, that's fake as fuck. We're not dealing with this. So yeah, I think it's interesting. Like you said, like, okay, that's the way you're gonna choose to do this. All right.
Just a little brackets, like, because you say you were like an unconditional Bethany Frankel fan. Did you watch The Big Shot?
Not yet. Not yet. Because like, whew, I heard. Did you tell me that it's not great? Or did I read that?
I enjoyed it, actually. It's not the best show ever. Yeah, but it was fun. Like it's always nice to see Bethany on TV.
I think I read somewhere that like the frustrating part of the show is that none of the people cast are actually like qualified enough to do the job that they're like in the running for, and so it's hard to like jump on board with it. But again, like you said, having I just enjoy her. I think she's hilarious. I know she got in a little bit of hot water tweeting about Meghan Markle, but yikes. Anyway, no, it is something I plan on watching. It's just like I was saying to you, I am dedicated to getting caught up on this New York season, or like the New York seasons I was watching, so I can get caught up with like the live season so I could talk to you about it. And then all of a sudden I had this genius idea of like, why don't we talk to anyone who wants to listen to us about it? So that was like my main focus, that
Yeah.
I will watch it. I just haven't yet.
Just like for people who are watching, it's like a celebrity apprentice kind of thing with Bethany Frankel being Donald Trump, pretty much. It's also a Mark Burnett show, the guy who made The Apprentice. So there's a lot of similarities in there, and just Bethany being Bethany. So if you enjoy Housewife, is enjoying The Apprentice, watch The Big Shot. It's available on HBO Max. It's only 7 episodes, I believe, not 8.
Okay.
And yeah, that's it. Little promo for you, Bethany.
Maybe we can maybe once I watch it, we can do a side little podcast on just the whole series. We'll do it all at once.
Yeah.
And have a big old conversation. So if you are interested in maybe even joining us in that, put a comment, let us know, get us on Twitter. We love guests. We love talking to new people. So all right, let's shift our focus to Beverly Hills.
Okay. Oh my God.
So a deep breath here, first and foremost. Let's do a little bit of a cleanse. Who is, at least on this season, your favorite?
Katie Hilton. No.
Please.
No, Garcelle. Obviously, Garcelle.
Yeah.
Garcelle is the moment this season. I'm so glad she stayed, because she says if Denise leaves the show, I'm leaving the show as well. And I think she just like, first season, I'm going to be on the back seat. I'm going to observe. And this season, I'm going to ready to like take over. So Garcelle, I'm obsessed with you.
I hope that she doesn't feel like she has to be responsible for teaching these like rich white women about or like basically like people of color who are rich. I hope that she doesn't feel like that's her responsibility, because I feel like too often we put the onus of learning about the trials, tribulations, whatever it may be, of people of color on the people of color to tell us. And I hope that's like not the burden she's carrying in returning with this, because I feel like she's already had to do a lot in these first few episodes. I agree that I think she's great, and I'm so glad she's back. I love her. I might have a different favorite, but it's not just like, if it's this season isolated, she's not my favorite. And I know this might be like a very, I don't know if this is problematic to say, but dude, I fucking love Erica. And I know that like she's in some hot water. So like,
we're gonna lose all the followers right now. Come on. Erica's not that loved on the community, but
well, I know. I mean, so obviously I can't just say like, remove this whole like fraud thing that's going on. So that's why I want to put it with like, up until this season, I've been a huge Erica fan. I think she's like, I've always thought she's like real as fuck. Like she tells you what she's thinking. She's kind of
so.
But now with all of this stuff, I don't know if she is. And so I was.
The thing with Erica,
I'm like torn. It hurts me.
Oh my God! I just knocked my hand on the fan. I won't talk about Erica anymore.
that's Erica smiting you.
Yeah, no, but the thing with Erica is that like, I read like, I feel like it was an article about like this season why people are excited about Erica. Of course, to know the drama unfold is because like, if you realize, Erica hasn't shared as much about her life on the show. Like she used it as a platform to like advertise her brand, which is Erica Jane and everything, the pretty mess. So it is kind of true to see a scandal with Erica Girard days happening while they were filming the season. So I am excited. I like Erica. I don't dislike her. A lot of people do. I don't. But I just wanted to see. That's the thing about the Beverly Hills ladies. They all try to hide stuff.
And it's crazy how, like,
they get away with
they are about hiding things. Like, how many times in the early seasons, like, not on camera. Like, well, then what the fuck is there a camera for? Like, come on.
And that created, like, a thing where they decided, like, they picked one, out of the group. Like, this season, we're going to gang up on this person. We're going to expose they are dirty because we don't like that. It has happened with many, like, Vanderpump, like your favorite, like they all like came with a plan to like take Vanderpump down, right? So, and then Denise happened after. So I really hope they are above that on this season. Like this season so far has started like refreshing, in my opinion, like with the new cast, with the addition of Sutton, with Crystal, Kathy Hilton as well. Like it seems like they are getting back to like getting out of the flop era of Beverly Hills. So I'm very excited. And this week's episode was like chef kiss, in my opinion.
Yeah, so not to like go harp too much on the first episode, because that's not the one we're talking about, but I thought it was so interesting that they started it with like who's telling the truth, who's lying, like all about Erica's thing. So like we know that Erica is going to be, if not the key housewife in this whole series. You know what I mean? Like I think it's going to be easier for some of the other ones to fall to the background. Like I don't know how much Kathy Hilton is going to add to this. I read that she like joined the cast to kind of like gain back some good press after Paris Hilton came out and said some shit and like maybe I can't remember exactly. It was a while ago when I read this. But I don't know. Like I'm not. I
think Kat so far she's the comic relief. Of it,
But like I don't think she's funny. I think she's just like easy to laugh at. I don't know if I laugh with Kathy. I think I just am like. Oh,
I laugh at Kathy Hilton. I'm sorry, but I laugh. Like, it's just so surreal. I never imagined that Kathy Hilton was just like that. Because you see Paris Hilton, this iconic figure, like super, like stereotypical and whatever, like the dumb blonde she played for years, according to her. So I always imagine Kathy Hilton like this elegant, like this super, like, like almost like untouchable figure because Black Hilton. Paris Hilton was the black sheep of the family, not Black Hilton. She was the black sheep of the family. She was so far from the tree, And then I'm watching Kat Hilton. I'm just like, wow, like so.
the genetics run deep.
Yes.
All right. So with this episode, we start off with seeing Garcelle about to go meet up with Kyle, but before that happens, we get Erica in a shop, and I don't know if it's like her own like closet that she's shopping in. I couldn't really tell, and I didn't care to figure it out. But Sutton shows up, and we hear about how like Erica saying like Sutton's a proper Southern lady, and they kind of like show some flashbacks to Sutton being that proper Southern lady. But this part got me. Did you know what a knobber is before this?
I probably still don't know what it is right now.
So Sutton said, like, tells a story about a pilot losing his license because he got a knobber, and she had never heard of a knobber. And Erica's like, dude, it's a blowjob. And I had never heard, like, okay, I've heard of like slob on my knob, like corn on the cob, but I haven't heard of knobber as a word for this. So I felt educated in this moment.
The things they say the Housewives is not, like cultural enough.
Put this shit on PBS. I'm learning all the time. So we get that little story from Sutton, which like I think kind of shows two things where she's willing to, like talk about sex related stuff and whatever, but also the fact that she's like prim and proper and didn't know what a blowjob was. Well, not that she didn't know what a blowjob was, but she didn't know the nickname for the blowjob that was used in the situation.
Yeah.
But Sutton has sold her house that she used to live in with her ex-husband, which was like a fucking mansion, and lives in Kyle's house now while she's gonna build her own.
Yes.
I just like I think that's kind of weird for Sutton. Do you?
I think it has a good storyline to the show. Mauricio is like this top realtor guy in real estate agent in Beverly Hills, right? According to I saw what happens like the other day, and with the Beverly Hills Girls, and Andy Cohen said that he's the number one in Beverly Hills. So like he's really a big thing. So I think it was good for like this storyline, like with Kyle's perfect husband, with the Sutton having the money. I feel like they like the stuff like that with Beverly Hills. Like, I'm building another house and I'm gonna stay in one amazing house that cost me $25,000 a month, right? So that's
Dude,
what I got.
Imagine $25,000 a month. Like, I just won an award for teaching and I got 15,000 and I'm like, oh my God, look at me go. Can you imagine paying 25,000 for something? Like,
this probably pays 1 year of my rent. I'm not even joking. Or more than that. Like, I mean, I'm not even joking.
That 25,000 would cover 2 years of my rent.
Yeah, probably.
Because if it's not like around 1,000 a month, 1,000 times 12 is 12,000. 12,000 times 2 is 24,000.
I'm gay. I can't do math. Okay.
All right, no worries. I got the math under control. I got 2 degrees in this shit. I teach it Monday through Friday. So in conclusion, if we need math, if we are a pair on The Amazing Race, on The Challenge, whatever, you stick to cooking because I can't do that for shit, and I'll do the math.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, great. Can you drive a Standard?
I can.
We're great. Let's like sign up yesterday. Let's do this. Okay, we stand a chance. Like, podcasting duo. Like, we've got the Canadian I mean, you're not a former Brazilian, but like,
I am Brazilian.
You are Brazilian. You're not a former Brazilian. You're still Brazilian. Yeah. And then you have like little me from we could do it. This is all right. I'm gonna look this up anyway. Clear your schedule for the next Amazing Race. We're going together. Where did my notes go? I got side.
Okay, I want to figure out your notes. I'm just gonna say something about that meeting with Sutton and Erica that I want to say before I forget. I thought like there was not that like we got from that meeting itself, like to be on like the episode of like. But judging all the trailers for the season, I feel like Erica's and Sutton like clashing is gonna be a big thing. So I feel like that was a moment to show like they were indeed friends. We have here Erica talking to the cameras like, at first she annoyed me, but I love her. I really like Sutton. So that was completely different from what we saw on the trailers for this season. So I really want to know when things are going to start to shift between them.
I also wonder if it's supposed to exemplify like Erica's fall from grace financially, because we see her with her glam squad, like, and the clothes, like, just take things off the rack. It doesn't matter how much, that type of thing. And then we know she's going to go through some shit that like, I wonder if it's supposed to kind of remind us of like, here's where she's at and watch her when she falls.
Yes.
So, go ahead. You were going to say something.
I'm just like, like really thinking about like what they have shown from Erica this season. It's just like on the first episode, they talk about like it was just empty. They showed like this huge house being empty. It's just like very like meta linguistic. Is that a word? I don't know. Like
or metacognitive is usually like thinking about thinking.
Like a metaphor, about
like
for her life and
yes,
so
yes, I agree with you. Our next thing is when we get Kyle and Garcelle at lunch, and I think this is such an important conversation for us to get to watch.
Yes.
So we see that Garcelle has started her show, and Kyle is like, "Thank you for meeting me today." And Garcelle was like, "I was reluctant." So I appreciate Garcelle's honesty straight from the get-go, because I don't think she should have to sugarcoat things. I think that she should be able to be honest.
Oh yeah, and Kyle, like from all the girls, she's the least that can require Garcelle to sugarcoat about things because Garcelle, like she really tried to call Garcelle out on the reunion last year, right? Without
Mm-hmm.
like a previous thing, because come on, that thing could like be resolved on a phone call. Hey, I got your donation. Yeah, I saw that I don't have your donation here. Like, did you actually send the money? But instead of like she weaponized that mistake, like against Garcelle.
It was such a
So
low blow.
it was desperate. It was ugly. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And so Kyle says, like, I was excited about the beginning of our friendship, but I heard what was being said. And they cut to like when Garcelle was like, some of my new friends, like kind of like shading Kyle at that when she won the award. And so to be fair, like Garcelle was a little shady towards Kyle last year or last season when but Garcelle also did say to her, like, I feel like I talk and you don't hear me. So it wasn't like Garcelle was a shady fucking bitch and then address the problem. I think she tried to address it and then
Yes.
was like, nothing's still happening. So let me get to these women the way they know
They
how
know
to get
better.
to each other, which is I'm gonna call them out publicly in a shady way.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. And like, there's so much about these girls, like on this group settings. They're all about the clicks. Like it's Kyle with Rena and Teddy and Dorit. Like going there. It's like there's no space for like nobody else comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like Garcelle was really trying to get the to be part of like the whole cast, and the girls were not giving her that space. So I love that she called Kyle out on that moment
And I
because
mean,
that's all that they're afraid of, like the public opinion.
yeah, and take into consideration that you have this group that's been together for a few years through a few seasons. Um, and the one woman that Garcelle felt she came close to last year isn't back this season. So there's that aspect, but also the fact that like there is this glaringly obvious thing that Garcelle is different from them and that she's black and the rest are white. And like that already has to, and obviously I can't speak to this, but like that already has to be at the forefront of her mind to then try and integrate into this group who already is so tight from their previous seasons together that it's like, what do I do? My one friend is gone. You all turned on her last season. Like, Jesus
Mm,
Christ. So like, I think the fact that she took this lunch and was upfront and straightforward about it was the best way for Garcelle to go about this. And like we're about to get into, for her to bring up, like, do you realize the effect that race has on what you did?
absolutely. Like when it comes, like when we talk about Ebony on New York, she coming to the show and like bring like a different thing. I think it's even worse for Garcelle on Beverly Hills because New York is more like laid back. Is New York, even though there's a lot of privilege. Beverly Hills is all about glam and about
Mm-hmm.
like things and about like showing how much you have this and that. And we know that there is a magnifying glass on Garcelle, just like, like looking at her and be like, you don't belong to this group
Mm-hmm.
for unspoken reasons, that
Mm-hmm.
are very much racist, So Garcelle comes to the show with this huge pressure of like level up with this girls, like I am very, she's probably like more I don't want to say talented, but like more accomplished on her career than many of these other girls,
Mm-hmm.
right? And she just, still constantly have to prove herself with the looks, with the fashion, If it kind of sounds like the like microaggressions when like Garcelle shows
Mm-hmm.
up with a very nice glam and she's like, "Oh, girl, you're looking great," But it's kind of like have like this silent like for a black girl, Like every
Mm-hmm.
time that Garcelle does these little things,
Yes.
so she being on that show is such a huge weight on her,
Mm-hmm.
and she probably feels the pressure like nobody else. And then like she goes through an entire season, just doing what she does best. That's like being herself and being a loyal friend to Denise, and then she get called out on a reunion for money related thing, like stereotyping her
Hmm.
to not be good with money. That was a huge low blow that Kyle shouldn't have done because it would affect Garcelle way more than would affect other girls. So
Hmm.
the fact that Garcelle just like exposed that on national TV, I'm here for it. Like please do more often.
Yes. And so that's exactly what we get into is um Kyle's like, let's let this go. And Garcelle's like, I can't until we talk about how you said I didn't pay for the charity. And Kyle said, if we were getting along fine, I wouldn't have said anything, which I think is fucked up. Like, so you would have been okay if Lisa Rinna didn't pay you for whatever it was, but because we're not getting, it's still the same amount of money from the
Yes.
same group of women. So I thought that was messed. Like, I don't think that's a great justification. And
Mhm.
then Garcelle says, like, would you have said it if it was one of the white women? And that I feel like you weaponize it against me being a black woman, and you don't know the stereotypes that I have to face, like black women or black people don't pay rent, black people don't tip. And Kyle was like, I have no problem with you. To which I was like, ooh, we could have like I think you needed to be a bit more like, oh shit, as a white person, I've never experienced this. As a rich white person, I've never experienced this. And so I forget that even though I know you have money, that you still have to experience the stereotypes that any black person goes through, rich, not rich, whatever it may be. Like instead, she's like, I don't have a problem with you. I'm like, oh no, Kyle, you had an
Yeah.
opportunity to really step up and do something here.
I agree. Like it didn't even cross her mind, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
like I don't even think that she have acknowledged that publicly after the episode or anything, you know, because it's a thing. They're good on the show, right? After
Mm-hmm.
that, so for Kyle, that's enough. You know, nobody can tell that I don't think Kyle is necessarily like racist, but she did have like a little like um lack of awareness on racial issue for that case specifically. If Kyle come out as a racist, I wouldn't be shocked. But like I don't think like we have enough evidence of that. But she did have like a lack of knowledge on like how this would affect herself more for being a black woman. And, you know, and she really lost an opportunity to just like own up to that and be like, hey, I didn't know about that. I'm aware now. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
won't do that anymore. It was just like I don't have a problem with you personally. So
And as someone, so like to speak personally, I'm from a like white, middle class, like Catholic, somewhat conservative town. I was actually just talking to Ganjo about this that like I graduated from a class of 520 kids, a high school of 2400 kids, so pretty decent sized school. In my class of 520 kids, there was 3 black people. So like yeah, 3 of 520. And then like going to college and having that exposure to diversity, the opportunity to engage with people who are different than me, like that was really my first opportunity to do something like that at the age of what, 18? And
yes,
so like from there and from like having exposure and the opportunity to engage with people that are different than you helps you learn so much. Um, and I feel like a lot of these women, especially someone like Kyle, who like Kyle's told us she didn't go to college. She had her first kid when she was like 18 and grew up acting. So like we know like acting is a very white field, especially back in the day. You know, like what was her exposure to diversity growing up? Like she doesn't have a lot of it. So I'm not defending it, but it because it's like you are too old and like too involved in the like mainstream culture to not have at least the realization of it. But I do genuinely wonder like how many people has she dealt with that don't look like her?
yes.
I don't
That's
know if
the thing
she's had
about
that
Beverly Hills.
exposure.
Yeah, the Beverly Hills franchise, in my opinion, is like the most like this is the one that lacks more social, awareness in general.
Mm-hmm.
Because like we see a thing here and there in the others, like we talk about, I don't know, like Pride or like, Black Lives Matter in Atlanta happening
Mm-hmm.
like so strong right now. And Beverly Hills is just like that inner circle. It's just there. It doesn't get out of there very often. I think they do like fundraising and stuff like that, but like how much is that about the cause? It's about them, like to brag them about like donating money into a hospital and stuff like that, right?
Well, even a
So
lot of times, like who they're fundraising for, disenfranchised or groups, like disenfranchised groups that they see as like less than or whatever it may be. And so it's this like white savior complex of
yes.
you know what I mean? That um even then I question a lot of it, like we're doing this because we have money and we're supposed to, but like how much do you genuinely care about the rights of gay people, the rights of Black people, the rights of anyone who isn't in your tax bracket? Like that is something that, especially as I watched the New York one and reflecting on the Beverly Hills one, it's like these are two different groups. These are very different, and like I don't know. It does make me appreciate Crystal and Garcelle even more this season because they are needed. It's not just like, oh, it's a pleasure to have you here. They're needed to like enlighten. And I'm so glad they're here. But like, how did we go this long
Yeah.
without more representation?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was really happy with this conversation happening. I don't know if I was like exactly happy how it went, but I'm glad that it did, and that Garcelle felt comfortable, confident
But
enough to
it's
say
still like,
this.
just to not to go like too long about this, but like it's still like if you go like on Instagram pages and stuff like that, like and comments, is always about uh like, oh, Garcelle, like she's a bitch, like she's
Oh,
the people who watch the show, like why she's talking about that. Even with Crystal and Sutton, when we get to there, like, Sutton like say something on her Instagram, and people,
mm-hmm.
the fans were like, yes, that's what I like you, like Crystal was aggressive and stuff like that. So it's still nice they're there and they're getting a conversation, but like it's sad that like people of color, they have to pour themselves in a certain way to pass their message that
Mm-hmm.
is not sounding like aggressive, when we literally have a show about like white women is screaming at each other and
Right.
throwing glasses and shit about that,
Yeah.
it's really fucked up.
Yeah, it does feel like both Garcelle and Crystal are being put in a situation where they have to educate, and it shouldn't be their job to educate. It should be the
Yes.
job of the people who are calling themselves their friends to learn how to be allies and to do all that. And we can talk about that a little bit more as we get towards the end of the episode. But so that conversation ends with Kyle being like, "I didn't realize this," and to be fair, she probably didn't realize it, but it's like I'm hoping going forward, we see moments of Kyle being like, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I remember Garcelle talking to me about this." Noted. So hopefully we get to see some personal growth from Kyle here. Our next segment is all about Crystal. So we're getting introduced to our new housewife. So I'm just going to run down what I have written, and then please fill in gaps and anything that you have. Because I like, if you, I know I didn't share my notes with you, but like I'm using just like initial, like first letters. So it's just like C, like a whole row of them where you can like see the back and forth and everywhere else. So we have Crystal is home with her kids and her brother. And she's like, I know it's totally cliche, but I'm totally a tiger mom. She grew up with Chinese immigrant parents, and she said things like good grades were drilled into her. And she loves to brag about her husband who produced Lion King.
The
So
Lion King,
she would
yes.
just like sleeps in a bag of money at night, probably. But she does have to do a lot of the parenting on her own because of her husband's job. She loves scheduling. Lucy is her right-hand woman, who might be my favorite character. That's not a housewife. Crystal calls her El Presidente, and Lucy just like does not hold back. She like tells her all like the truth. Doesn't It's awesome. I hope we get to see more of that dynamic. And her brother is a pop star in China, but is
What? That
currently
was crazy.
I was not ready for that one in the slightest. So her brother's living with her at the moment because it is COVID. So he's there and now is acting as her full-time nanny, essentially. And she's trying to instill honor and respect of elders into her kids, but her kids are a little crazy. So that was the introduction to Crystal. What else do you have about Crystal that you want to add?
I just like to see a little bit more of Crystal because I felt like that lacked on episode 1. I felt like Crystal's introduction was just too brief on the first episode.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, like that's how we're gonna get introduced to Crystal. Also about like housewives being introduced on the show. Just saying the produced cast you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I just hate this, like, oh, we're gonna go to Crystal's house, which is a friend of my sister Cat,
Yeah.
like it's just so weird. Like every franchise has this. I hate it. Just say, oh, the produced cast a new girl, but they have to keep the illusion, alive.
Right.
But I really like that they give Crystal like a little bit of like a bigger segment on this episode, that we get to see more of like her life outside of the group, like showing like her house, the dynamic with her, with her El Presidente, with her brother. I think it was good. Nothing that I care too much. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna be like, oh yes, Crystal doing chores. I don't care about that. But it's good that they gave her like a little better introduction on this second episode.
I have like, I don't know, it's caught in my throat. Hold on.
Okay, so Carrie's doing that. I am here.
If you're watching the video, like, you might be seeing my last breath.
And I'm here just laughing like a silly clown. Oh, God. Yeah.
All right, I think I'm back. I don't know what just happened. Oh, I think someone poisoned the oxygen in my apartment or something.
Oh my God.
I'm kidding. I'm being dramatic as fuck right now, but I like to start crying while I was coughing. Okay. Whew, deep breaths. I'm a professional. Just kidding. I'm not.
Yes,
I'm an
you
amateur. So I didn't realize that Crystal was a housewife until this episode.
Oh, really?
I didn't I don't even know if I watched. I think the only trailer I watched was like the they're like a sneak preview of them at a meal last episode, maybe, or was that New York?
Oh,
I don't know. Maybe I didn't even watch a trailer. So I had no idea that until this episode. I'm like, oh, she's actually a housewife and doesn't wasn't just a guest. So that was a nice surprise for me this episode. Okay, so I think I can breathe again. All right. So the next part, they all show up to go to Tahoe, or Lake Tahoe, and it's Lisa Rinna there first, and Garcelle shows up next, and Garcelle's like,
yeah, like
this is awkward as fuck. And then people start showing up. I didn't think there was like anything that great about that. I felt like they extend.
Kyle walks in and then Garcelle's like, I'll take Kyle. Like, yeah. I prefer
She's like,
Kyle.
That's how bad it is. I'll take Kyle over Lisa Rinna right now. After that, I didn't think that there was like much.
What's your thoughts on Rinna? I don't think I have asked you this before.
I think that she's probably the most calculated of all of them. And sometimes you can be calculated in a good way and you can be calculated in a bad way. And she's the bad version of it. I think that a lot of what she does is to make sure that she's invited back for the next season. I think that like a lot of her drama is forced, and if it's not, she's just a shitty friend. Like she's not someone I'd want to socialize with.
Yeah. The thing with Rita, I just wouldn't be friends with her, but I appreciate her on the show. I feel like in that cast that like really like to hide things, it's good to have someone that is willing to, pull things out. Mm-hmm. But I don't like when people like that does that get offended about people trying to pull things from their life as well, So I appreciate Rina's presence on the show, but I'm not a big fan of her as a person.
Yeah, I just don't know, like, it's kind of the same song and dance with her every season. Yeah. You can guarantee that kind of like what you said, like she's gonna call someone out for something, and then she's gonna get mad that someone does the same thing to her, and then this drama is gonna carry throughout the rest of the season or something. You know, it's like it's kind of the same song and dance that if this was her last season, I'm not gonna be upset. She isn't bringing anything new to the show for me.
Yeah.
So I also think she really encourages a lot of the clickiness that happens.
Oh yeah, like after this episode, I'm not gonna tell what happened, but like on the episode, but on Instagram, like it was Erica, Lisa, Dorit, Kyle. Did I say Rina? Anyways, like they are, and Teddy as well. They were all like having dinner together and like posting like how they're, you know, like super close friends and stuff like that. It's like, is this a preview what's gonna happen this season? They're gonna gang up on someone again, you know, like we don't wanna see that anymore.
Right. So after this part, we get them on the plane. Garcelle says again she's afraid of very small planes, which happened last season as well. And they you get kind of like individual confessionals or whatever we call them on this show of each of them being like, oh my God, I loved Lake Tahoe, or like, I couldn't care less that we're going here. And I thought it was kind of funny that was like evenly split of like, I'm just going so I don't get fined by Bravo for not going. And like 3 or 4 of them being like, oh my God, Lake Tahoe's the best.
Have you been to Tahoe before?
No, I have not. I mean, it looks nice. I don't know if it's like on my active list of places to go anytime soon, but it does look nice.
Yeah, when I was in San Francisco, like it was like if you want to go see snow, go there, you know, because it's closed and it's still California, I think. But
makes sense.
Never been there.
All right. Well, their Airbnb in Lake Tahoe, looked sick. That was, oh my gosh, I don't know how much that cost. I like that they did like the Airbnb Luxe, like there was a little advertisement there, but it came with a chef, a game room, a theater, a sports bar, an indoor pool. But the downfall is bears have access to the first floor.
Is that a bad thing? What kind of bear is that?
Would you take a first floor room?
I would actually. Like, I'm terrified of animals in general, but like, there's a whole crew, you know, like, I don't know. I would admit, that's the thing when I'm watching Housewives, I don't understand. Like, seriously, they fight for the rooms and stuff like that. I'm just like, I would sleep on the couch happily. So I probably would sleep on that room. Would you?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked at a summer camp for the last 10 years that has bears that roam around. So it depends on the type of bear, because for the most part, the bears don't like want to interact with humans. It's really only if like you engage the bears that you're screwed. So I would be like, whatever, it's a nice room. I'll close my door and take my chances. So I thought it was funny where Garcelle's like, bears, I'm not sleeping here. You do not tell a black girl that twice. Like, I am out.
Good for her for standing up for herself.
And then we get like the drama of like, no one's gonna take our suitcases, which is just like, again, one of those flashes of like how privileged they are that they don't have to carry their own suitcases ever. Well, if you have a problem with carrying your suitcase, don't pack your whole closet. Like,
right?
Some of them brought so much. I don't even know how they were able to fit all of their luggage on that little plane.
That's true. I didn't think about that before. But like, it's like probably like just 3 days, you know? Like, why are you taking like, honestly, like I came here to Canada to live my entire life here, and I didn't bring as much luggage with me.
3 days I can live out of my small Adidas duffel bag, hands down. It's like,
yeah,
this big if you're not. Anyway, yeah, so I just thought that type of shit annoys me. Like, what do you mean I have to carry this? Like, oh my God, shut up. Just shut up. And Rena's like, well, it's COVID. It's hard to get someone. Whatever. Make them carry it. Just tell them to. So we get a scene with Kathy and Kyle. And Kyle's like, oh, is Rick okay with you coming on this trip? That's Kathy's husband. And she's like, yeah, Rick's happy that you and I are spending time together. Kyle, in more of an individual setting, says like, we've had a lot of different problems. I'm happy to have her in my life again. So there, we saw like publicly in past seasons that like Kyle wasn't talking to either of her sisters, or is more so like neither of her sisters were talking to her.
Yeah. Because I don't think either Ken or Kat ever had issues. It's always with Kyle, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the big thing was like that TV show that Kyle made. They were like, their issue is like, you're exposing our family's history and like our issues and our problems. You're putting them on a national platform on a TV show, not the Real Housewives TV show, but the one that she was writing specifically about their family. And they were kind of like, fuck off. Yeah. Don't put our shit out there.
Yeah. Like, one thing is you're going to the show and like putting yourself and stuff out there, like it's a reality show of a current moment. Another thing is just like digging stuff from the past, you know, like not respecting their like, you know, their mom's history, you know, like I think they were right to be mad and trying to make a profit out of it, right? So I really get why they were mad with Kyle.
Yes, I agree that like that's gotta be hard though, because all three of them have grown up in the public eye. And so where do you draw the line on like what is already public knowledge based off of a Google search and like what you expose now and all that type of stuff? Like that has to be a hard line to tread. Not to like shift series too much, but like that kind of came up in Potomac where it's like, yeah, we all can Google each other, but we also have like the common decency to not bring up what we can Google. And so it like, when you've grown up in this spotlight and it's your siblings, like I'm not, again, not defending Kyle. It's just one of those things I can see where it's like, I didn't think it was this bad. This is kind of public record. I'm just making a TV show off of it. But then we get like, I think one of the moments you were talking about with Kathy, where Kathy's like, this fan doesn't work. And Kyle's like, you have to plug the fan in. Like it doesn't. It requires electricity.
just what the hell is going on with this woman? Like she seems like off. Like in the first episode, she thinks Garcelle is Kyle. You know, like the first moment that we get introduced to Kat Hilton is her like mistaken like a black woman as her sister that is like super white, and then we have Kat talking about how she used to do dental work on children like when they were kids, and then she's just talking all this nonsense. Like, is this a character? Like, who like why I didn't know that Kat Hilton was this cuckoo crazy before this.
I think I had like gotten wind of it before I'd watched any of the episodes, so like it didn't really strike me as a surprise, but I don't, for Kyle to be like the most reasonable of her siblings, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is.
So after this, we get Kyle being like, all right, I'm cooking tonight. I know we have a chef, but take the night off. They talk about like making drinks and some of them knowing how to, not knowing how to make margaritas. And people are complimenting Kyle's face because we learned that she got a nose job done. First, it was like she had to get something done. I can't remember what happened. Did she get like hit in the face by something?
Yeah, she was on the new Halloween movie, Halloween Kills. She reprised her role that she did when she was a kid, and she broke her nose on set. Like she really did. So she said that like, okay, since it's broken and
while you're there,
just make it look nicer.
So, but Kathy was like, actually, it did blow up a little bit, like classic sibling shit. I did appreciate that. And Kyle saying like, people thought I looked younger. And Kathy's like, oh, are you going to keep doing more work? I bet you will. And after that, we get like Kyle making fun of Kathy because Kathy doesn't know who's who. Like my grandma used to do that shit. Like there's 4 grandsons and then me, and like she would just mix up all 4 grandsons. Like there's only 4 and none of them look anything alike. Like so kind of like remind me of my grandma in that sense. But here I read something on Reddit that I thought was interesting where Erica was like, oh, my husband kind of does this where he meets people and like just kind of forgets them. And someone's like, is this the first sign of like Tom kind of going senile? And I was like, ooh, especially because I'd read it before I'd seen it because I just watched this right before we podcast that. I was like, Interesting. What do you think of that? Like, do you think they're providing that little bit of insight on purpose?
I think Erica is very smart on what she shows. She's very selective on what she wants to show and what she doesn't want to show on TV. And yeah, like I will tell more about that but at the end of the episode with
Mm-hmm.
that truth and the lighting that she
Mm-hmm.
did.
Oh yeah.
But there's a very interesting fact about this episode. I'm gonna tell right now that this episode was recorded on November 28th, and Erica filed for divorce. No, October 28th, and she filed for divorce on November 3rd.
Oh.
Very close dates, and so that's why I'm like that seemed like a very like interesting and
Mm-hmm.
planted information to share on a very convenient time.
For me, Erica can be like the good type of calculated. Like she's not
Yes.
what she does in a calculated way is not to harm other people, but it's to protect herself. Where I feel like Rinna is calculated in a way where she is going after people and she
Yeah.
knows what she's doing, how she's doing it.
Yeah. She was
Um,
friends with Denise for 20 years.
right.
And she finished that friendship for a storyline on a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
That was insane to me. That's like psychopath behavior. I'm sorry, I'm not a doctor, but it is. Like, it's crazy.
Right. No, I agree with you. So after this, we get the smoke alarm going off, which if you grew up in the Dahlia household, that meant dinner was ready. So finish what you're doing wherever you are in the house and start making your way to the kitchen. um, in this case, it meant like we might need to call 911 because we might have a fire here. But dinner was ready then too. They did not have blackened salmon, but they just had black salmon. They had burnt fish. Um, I didn't catch this part, and I don't know if it was like anything important, but why did I only heard the second part of the confessional where Kathy was like, she's a little doogie, and the producer is like,
What is
what
a
is a
dookie?
little doogie? And she's like, oh, like a child. Like Kathy has her own
Like
language.
a little dookie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did she say doogie? Or
I
who
think
was she
that's
calling that?
Kyle.
Oh,
That's
she
how
was?
she calls Kyle Dookie. Like, it's like
Oh.
their love nickname, amongst themselves for the Kim and Kat to Kyle. They call Kyle Doogie. So yeah, and it's like a made up word. Like, he's a little Dookie, and what's a Dookie? It's just a little kid or
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah, I didn't hear why that came up. I only heard the end of it, and I just didn't want to hold up our podcast anymore by rewinding. I was like, we'll figure this out. They talk about how like Kathy and Kyle are almost 10 years apart, and that they always really got along. It was more Kim that tortured Kyle, and what I did think it was funny was Lisa Rinna was like, Kim tortured me too.
I love that scene, to be honest, with the bunny. I just love because the single tear coming out of Lisa Rinna is so dramatic, like
Yeah.
so over the top. Like, you can't make that shit up. I love it.
I think a lot of people were tortured by Kim. I thought it was like, not to derail this too much, but I thought it was so irresponsible by Bravo to keep her on TV for as long as they did, because like clearly this woman had issues that needed to be resolved, and being put in front of a public audience, also being publicly scolded by her sister, like it was too. A lot of that was uncomfortable for me, and I thought it was like incredibly like Ramona. Like, you take Ramona. Ramona's crazy and does her own batshit stuff, but like Kim was a different type where it needed attention in not that way, and I just felt it was so irresponsible by Bravo to keep allowing her to come back on this television show for as long as she did.
Kim said that the show saved her life. Do you remember that? She said that the show saved her life because it was able like to talk about the subject, and I can see that as well. But I almost revealed one of my truths in the lies here. But I think from a point of view that what is ethical, that was not ethical at all. Like, you just degrading this human being, like it was bad. It was.
So after this, we get the classic Sutton gifts. She brings gifts everywhere. I didn't catch what the first gift was, but I saw that she got everyone a flask. What was the other?
Yeah,
Was
that
that the
was
only
it.
thing?
No, I think it
Oh, I
was.
couldn't. I didn't know if there was something else that I might have missed. But yeah, I loved that Crystal was like, "I've never used a flask," and to be fair, I can't judge because like I don't drink hard alcohol, but I've never used a flask, so like okay. But
I
Kathy
never
Hilton,
used a flask also, but give me one as a gift. I would love that. I'll start using now.
I'll start using it. And where Kathy Hilton's like, I might put mouthwash in it. Like, all right, lady.
She
So
cracks me up, Carrie. Come on, don't give me those eyes. I just laugh.
I just like I'm hoping that she adds more to this show than being like because she's not even like the dumb blonde, but it's more like the old dumb blonde in a way
Yeah,
that like are we gonna get more out of her? Is there gonna be like a reason she's here? Otherwise, because there's my small issue with Beverly Hills right now is there's like 20 housewives. Like there's so many of them. I like when there's like 5 or 6, but right now we have what 7, and like we're learning more. Like we're still learning so much about Crystal, Sutton, and Garcelle. So then it's just like there's in addition have Kathy on there. There's just so much new that it's like I didn't need her. I don't need this. Like I would rather have it be a little bit more closed. And so I think that's it. Like right now she's adding the least for me and she's taking up screen time that I would rather see other people have.
okay, that's fair. I can see that.
So the next part is I think one of your favorites is the 2 truths and a lie. So Crystals were like, okay, like, wow. So Crystal says, I've been arrested. I worked at an escort agency and I've been propositioned to become a madam. And were you surprised by her lie, which is, I've been arrested?
No.
No.
No, like I don't even remember like hers to be honest. Like it was okay, I can see that. Like it was nice that she had like a different like story to tell with the escort agency and proposed to be a
Mm-hmm.
madam kind of thing. But like I'm not surprised that she was not arrested. She seemed like a nice girl that very
Yeah, for me, it was like, okay, I don't think she's been arrested, but I also don't think she was an escort. And then when it came up, like, that made sense for me.
yeah.
Next, people were shocked that Sutton actually has been a barista at Starbucks. That was like crazy for some of them to believe that she's stolen something and I was a virgin and that she was a virgin when she got married. So I didn't think there was anything like that great there. But like more the reaction from the women, like there's no way you would work at a Starbucks.
Yeah, so like from this segment, I was really with the expectations high because they built up the trailer for the season on this moment. Like the
Yeah.
season started with Dorit saying, I have a game, and that's like, what is true? What is a lie? What is true is a lie. So I really thought that shit was about to go down on that moment, like that's when the suspicious of like Erica and stuff that was about to happen on this moment, It's just so chill. Like nobody just talk about anything. So
Side note, is Dorit even on this season? Shit. Like honestly, I don't mind because she annoys the fuck out of me, but like she's barely on this episode.
yeah.
So anyway, next we get Erica, which I know you've kind of alluded to. She said she wore a wire and was a witness in a government case. She's adopted and she worked for the mafia. And she's like, I cannot tell you what my truth or lie is publicly.
Yeah. So like isn't that weird that she said that and then like she filed divorce like 5 days after this?
You think there's a connection between the two?
I think so because like there's no reason why she would say that. I think she's trying to like because there's so much controversy on Erica's situation right now. If she knew, if she was a part of it, and she's trying to like, is she trying to tell us that like, like she was a witness on this case against her husband? Like
Yeah.
is that what she's trying to tell us here? I don't know. It's so weird that she will share it. Like, you could lie about literally anything. Like, I don't know, say about I own like a $50,000, dress or something
Right.
like that. Just lie about that. You don't have to tell about wires, and it's just, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I get your point. Like, why did you things up if you can't talk about them? If you're going to bring them up, you want a bit of attention for them.
Yeah, I feel like this was like, I can be like going crazy right now, but maybe she's, like creating like evidence in her favor. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Oh,
because
maybe.
everything is documented on the show, right? So I don't
That's
know.
true. We get Rinna being like, I can't do this. I'm not a good liar. And Garcelle's like, you're an actress. Like, shut up. Which I thought was funny. And then we get Kathy's, which, like, I don't even know why is this included, but she worked as a dental assistant, she worked as a receptionist, and she worked as a hairdresser. And I didn't even write down which was her truth and lie. She said on the plane that she was a hairdresser. Oh wait, were they all truths or something?
Yeah, they were all true.
Yeah, that was it. Like, okay, they're really building up Kathy to be a true genius. So then we get Kyle talking to Crystal, being like, I'm happy with tonight. Garcelle was very sweet to me. Like, a cloud was lifted. And so change the scene to Garcelle and Lisa Rinna, where no cloud had been lifted from their previous conversation. So Garcelle's like, hey, Rinna, can I come in? And I think you think that everything's great between us. And, like, spoiler alert, it's not. Like, Lisa's like, oh, I went home and told Harry everything's fine. Like,
girl, what are you thinking?
And Garcelle said, like, I'd seen a side of you that I hadn't seen before, and I don't trust it. Denise said you guys were good friends, but you didn't act like a good friend to her. And Lisa said, like, her friendship with Brandy was more than her friendship was with me. And I thought that was, like, very immature.
Oh, very.
Like, oh no, she was closer with her, so I had to go and destroy her life.
Yeah.
That's the way it worked out. But Garcelle asked an interesting question. He's like, so are we close? Like, trust is important to me. How do I trust a relationship with you? And I think this is completely valid for Garcelle, because, like, she considered Lisa Rinna one of her, like, better friends in the group before all this shit went down. And then it's like, if you did this with someone that you've been friends with for 20 years, and, like,
20 years.
what are you going to do to me? And then Lisa goes, I can't promise you that. Like, that she's not going to do. What type of fucking answers? Do not put this woman on, like, Survivor or anything. She'll be the first. She, like, imagine, like, hey, will you not vote me out? Like, I can't promise you that.
I think Lisa Rinna was on the Celebrity Apprentice, and she was, like, the second out. I think.
Good. So we get a commercial, but come back, Garcelle, like, how do I trust you? How can I tell you something and it won't backfire? And again, Rinna says, like, I can't promise you that. And Garcelle straight up says, like, that's crazy. And Rinna says, I'm trying to move forward. I feel like you're trying to punish me. And Garcelle says, I feel like I didn't get angry enough, though. And we get, again, more insight into Garcelle's experience as a Black woman, where it's like there's this Black stigma of being angry and aggressive as a woman. And it makes you want to hold back because you don't want to fall into proving the stereotype true. I wish she said it to Rinna, though. I wish it wasn't a confessional.
Yeah, but I feel like it's gonna come out at some point.
Yeah.
I feel like Garcelle is being just, like, calculated, not in a sense of, like, oh, she's plotting against people, but in a sense that she's like, you know what, I really need to plan this correctly and message, phrase it correctly so I can get my message across in a way that is not going to villainize me, because it's so easy to villainize Black women, So I do feel like she's building up, like, she's maybe setting traps to Rinna to fall, like, on her own contradiction, and Garcelle can really expose. I don't know, but I feel like Garcelle is doing, like, in the best way possible for her to doesn't look like a villain.
And I think we see, like, Rinna lives in her own world. And, like, this conversation really highlights it, especially at the end, when Garcelle's like, it's going to take me some time to like fully get back to the relationship I thought we had. And Rinna's like, this is so good. And Garcelle's like, is it? Like, really? Is it? Like,
Yeah.
um,
I know that Garcelle and Lisa are not following each other on Instagram
ooh.
still. I know Garcelle follows Kyle, but she doesn't follow Rena. So
Isn't it crazy how like you can evaluate people's relationships with each other based off they follow each other on social media? That's
that's how
nuts.
they talk on the show.
Yeah, no. Like listen, 2021's a wild time. All right. So we are at the part that we have provide some allusion to throughout the episode that we also get a to be continued at the end. So we're going to see more of this next week, but we have Sutton, Kyle, and Crystal talking. And I think the best way for us to do this is I'll run through what we have and then we can kind of go back and dissect. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Cool. So Sutton says, I've gotten to know Garcelle. You have to talk to her in a real way. You can't be fake or call her out. And Kyle's like, hold on, you aren't being honest. I had done nothing wrong. And so Crystal's like, what are you talking about? What had happened? So they explain the lack of payment situation. And Crystal goes, do you regret calling her out? Which I think is like a really valid question. But anyway, I said inside after. And Kyle said, not until we spoke about it, because I didn't realize there's this stigma of Black people not paying their bills that she felt was like being attacked in me calling her out. And Sutton says, I get what Garcelle is saying, but you didn't mean it that way. And so Crystal comes in and is like, coming from a non-white perspective, it's hard hearing the stereotypes. And Sutton is just like, no, we're not doing this. We are not about to talk about racial stereotypes. And Crystal's like, well, of course you don't want to. Like, it's easier for you not to. And Sutton's like, all defensive. Why? Because I'm a Southern white girl. What about when I see dumbass rednecks? Like, that's supposed to be me. And Crystal's like, do you not see color? Like, tell me you're that girl. Tell me you don't see color. And that's where we get the to be continued.
That was a punch in my face because I was so excited to see Sutton this season because Sutton was like a gem last season. She was such a genuine person, and like being genuine and unfiltered and not scripted have its bad takes sometimes, you know? A certain things you just have to keep it to yourself, girl. And she saying that, like trying to compare like racial stereotypes and like oppression suffered by people of color, like Black people, Asian, and many other kinds, as the same thing as a white person being compared as a redneck. Like, girl, what kind of world are you living in? You know, like you should feel ashamed for even think that. But like when you see those red directs on television and like people associated with you, you should think about your life and you should think about like, you know, like why people are making this association. Like maybe we need to change, you know, like maybe we need to highlight other people, you know, just like don't try to like put yourself in the same category as people have social like systematic racism like over like all these years. So that was a punch in the face, and you know, not gonna hate Sutton because of that, because she apologized after. I saw on her Instagram she talked about it, you know, and Crystal even like, you know, messaged her like, hey, you know, like this is the importance of like dialogue and stuff like that. And but I'm still on the fence with Sutton. But Crystal elevated the conversation and the franchise for me on that moment. Like we need people who are not afraid to call others out in this kind of stuff. A lot of them get away with stuff, and Crystal was like perfect. And I feel like Crystal would have the same reaction with literally any other white girl from the cast. It was not about Sutton. It's about like what is right is right. And that's how I act in my life. So I really like that.
So as I like mentioned earlier that I hope we see growth in Kyle. And I think that her mentioning like, oh, I didn't realize until she said this, and she didn't say it in like a negative way or anything, like I learned something that day. And so I respected that. It's where Sutton has to hopefully learn from this, like what being an ally is. And really, like, in my opinion, the role of a white ally in this situation is to listen. It does not matter if you feel like you have a similar situation based off of whatever it might be, because it's not similar. It's not it. It is your job to listen and take that in. And the only questions you should be asking is like, how did that make you feel? Can like tell me more? Those types of things. Like,
Yeah.
need to the like it was frustrating to watch it because it's like this is a masterclass on how to not act in this situation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I hope that we see Crystal continue to go further with this next week on this conversation and like doesn't let Sutton off the hook here. I want to see how this develops. I know we've seen like the post episode, like social media stuff, but like what happens in that moment? Does Sutton have that like, oh shit, I've crossed a line here and now I need to listen and learn. Yeah, it was a lot. And I know I find it frustrating because there's a lot of people who are trying to do a lot of good work to be as good of an ally as they can be. No perfect ally situation. But then when like you get these public people who have a lot of money and have this platform doing dumb shit like this, you're like,
yes,
I need a mandatory training. Like, I gotta go to these goddamn mandatory trainings. You need a mandatory training too. And
I agree. And you know what I think could happen in a situation like that? Like, like even Bravo, like, it doesn't hurt, like, at the end of the episode, like if the subject came out of it, just speak a little bit of it, Bravo stands with black people, like,
right.
like just a little thing, like just to show that, like, the show can teach something, whatever happened there does not translate to the Bravo's thing. Bravo thinks this, and this, just it could be a little bit effective if they did that way.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that Bravo has shown that they don't give a fuck, though. It's whatever gives them ratings. Like, Bravo let Luann go out in blackface. You know what I mean? Like, they want the thing that's going to get people talking about their shows. They care. It's not their primary focus of kind of like how MTV does a lot of, like, if something comes up in the commercial break, like you said, like, if you know someone who's struggling with blah, 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 call blah, blah, blah. Like, we're never going to get that out of Bravo because the conversation that happens is worth their publicity and press, unfortunately. But we are going to get more of this next week. Now, I know that we were going to start a segment, but my dog is being super vocal to go outside. So I'm going to, next week, we will do our first Kill, Marry, Fuck segment, or I should say kill. How do they? Marry, F, kill. Marry, F, kill is Luann's thing, right? Marry, F, kill. We're gonna do our first segment of that next week. But for tonight, let's close it up. What was your two truths and a lie? What was your lie? I'm pretty confident I know your lie.
Which one?
It was the worst wine you've ever had is the Lisa Vanderpump one.
Yeah, that's my lie. Like, I never had that wine. I don't even think she sells wine. I think it's just like sangria stuff mixed. I don't know.
Okay.
But I never had that. I am a journalist, and I did cook for Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello. What was yours?
So I have met Steph Curry at the front row of an Astros Red Sox game that I snuck into the front row of. It's a crazy story that I don't have time for right now. But I also used to play professional dodgeball. And so my lie is, unfortunately, that I met Taylor Swift. But that's on the bucket list. And I will not stop at anything. I mean, anyone who knows me knows I'm a massive Taylor Swift fan. So like everyone would know if I met Taylor Swift because I would remind people. I would just wear like I would have 7 different shirts, one for each day. It says like I've met Taylor Swift. Okay, so not to rush us out of here, but I think my dog needs to poop. So Leandro, before we go, where can people follow you on the social medias?
Oh, I didn't put my ad today. I just realized that's my pronouns here, but that's good to know. My ad on Twitter, on Instagram as well, is at Caladoleo, Caladoleo. And you can follow me over there. I'm always talking about pop culture, housewives, reality TV in general. So please give me a follow.
It's right there. We got it. I wasn't sure if we had yours.
Technology.
Crazy. And
thanks for having me.
What do you mean? You're a co-host. Shut the fuck up. You're back here next week.
I am.
He thinks he's running on a trial run. Like, he doesn't know we're married to the game now. It's me, you, and Real Housewives are married to each other. We are a thrupplet. Okay, so anyway, you can follow me at KGD26. I am tweeting about how I say stupid things unmuted on Google Meet or anything like that. Also, you can catch me on our very last upcoming episode of the challenge recap. The reunion's happening next week. We did just do one earlier this morning about the finale, which was a lot of fun. So you can catch us on Silent Podcast covering a bunch of things. So let me get that banner up because I'm still getting better at this. Anyway, we want you to follow us on a whole bunch of different platforms as soon as I find the thing.
Yes.
So again, Silent Podcast, we're anything but silent. Oh, I should undo my social media. Oh no. Carrie, be better. Okay, there we go. So on Twitch, Silent Podcast, we are, I think, like 12 away from being an affiliate on Twitch. So if you aren't following us yet, please do. I followed us today and I've been doing this for like 4 months. Silent Podcast on Twitter and on YouTube as well. Put comments. What if you want to hear us rant about something, if you want to never hear me complain about Ramona again, whatever it may be, put some comments on those things. We love to hear from you. You can also hear from my dog. So we will catch you next Saturday as we continue. Why is this not going away? Brand, that's why. Okay. We will catch you next Saturday. Where we're going to talk about next week's episodes. We may have a guest, we may not have a guest. I don't know if people want to talk about us, but either way, you're definitely going to get the 2 of us. So we are looking forward to catching back up with you and our favorite housewives next week. Until then, enjoy the week, enjoy the episodes. Tweet at us as you're watching them. We'd love to hear your commentary. And don't be silent because we're anything but silent, especially my dog. All right, have a great night, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Love that.